media about some of our concerns with the proposals that are out there for prison expansion and new construction. First off, I think we all want to reiterate or state from the Republican viewpoint that we very much appreciate what our current department is doing with the resources they have. We know that our folks that work in corrections have a very, very difficult job to do, a very dangerous job to do, and they do it with a great deal of professionalism. So we want to put that out there and thank the people that work within DOC for the job they are doing. But we have some real challenges within our state, and we did take some very interesting tours over the summer on an interim study committee and looked at some of the infrastructure needs that we do have within our prisons. And we're not here to disagree that we need some new construction. We are here, I think, to make specific points on those proposals that we feel are more cost effective and more efficient. First off, House Republicans are very opposed to bonding. Bonding for new prison construction is not the way to go. One sheet you all have with you today shows our current rate of bonding indebtedness for the state of Iowa. We currently have over $500 million of bonded indebtedness. A lot of Iowa taxpayers don't know that, and they should know that we already have $500 million of bonded debt to pay off before we start talking about new bond indebtedness. The governor this year in his budget proposal has outlined a plan to take $90 million of infrastructure money every year from what currently goes to infrastructure through our gambling revenue and put that into the general fund. We feel that that money should first be used for some of these infrastructure needs like new prison construction before we go into bonding. $90 million a year, we're talking about potentially building the first construction starting in 2013. If we set money aside every year from those infrastructure dollars today under a plan, we can pay for these new construction items without having to add additional cost to Iowa taxpayers, without incurring all that interest debt. That, I think, is a fiscally responsible way to go and the right approach to take. We also have some real concerns over the process that we're embarking on within this debate on new prison construction. Members of the Justice Appropriations Committee and several other committees did the interim study. We went through the prisons. We looked at the infrastructure needs. The way it's looking today, this proposal is going to be handed over to the Infrastructure Budget Committee, not the Justice Systems Committee. We feel we should be heavily involved with this process, and that we were the people that took the tours. We understood the data that was laid out before us, and to hand this over to another subcommittee we feel is the wrong way to go. Last but not least, for my own part, we feel we should have an open and honest debate about this. Currently, it looks like some of these proposals are going to be buried in several pieces of the budget. We think this should be a debatable bill that should allow all the lawmakers to have a say and a voice in how this is handled and how we proceed. To bury it in several budget subcommittees and not have a full debate on all the issues involved, we think is a disservice to the process. That's where I'll stop for now and turn it over to Representative Horbach.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to bring a little bit of a different picture to you, hopefully. My past experience is I did the budget for corrections for the last 6 years prior to this election period. And one of the challenges we've always had is Fort Madison, its location, the age of the building. There's a lot of things that we need to deal with, both as with a fiduciary responsibility and a public safety responsibility. I have to tell you that it is not our position to eliminate Fort Madison as a prison. However, it is our position that we think that if there is going to be new construction and it's warranted and it has to be a maximum facility, we think there are better places where it would be more fiduciary or more responsible and more efficient to the taxpayers of Iowa. Some of the things that I want to talk to you about is just having the discussion. Currently, there is no discussion. We're going to build a $150 million prison. We're going to put it in Fort Madison, and that's the end of it. Has anybody asked how many trips do we take out of that prison and what cost is there? We currently take 4,800 and some odd inmates a year to the Iowa City hospitals. Of that, and I have the exact numbers, it's around 60 that leave every month from Fort Madison. And those 60s could be intake, outtake, but the vast majority of them are for medical needs. The other things that we need to look at is revocation or parole or release. One of the biggest things that we deal with is revocation. This last year, 42% of the inmates that came back to prison were revocations. That means that they were paroled and they violated the parole and revocated back to prison. If you go to prison as a new inmate, every inmate goes to Oakdale. If you have revocation and you're pulled back in, we now have a new program that you'll either go to Newton or Mitchellville. The reason why we do that is because before, in the past, we had been putting those inmates in our county jails, and we've been paying the county. In order to save money, we've started moving a percentage of them to Mitchellville and to Newton. One of the things that we're looking at is, and I'm trying to show you, is that time and time and time again, DOC has changed the way it does business to be more efficient. And to build a new prison in a remote location like that would actually go against every practice they have. Centralization of medicine, centralization of the canteen, centralization of education. We're trying to move many of these things into a more efficient package, and this really causes a problem. Look at it this way. If we were to use that new prison as a tool for public safety instead of a tool for economic development, we could look at such places as Iowa City, or we could look at such places as Newton. If we put it in Newton, we have a release center, a medium security facility, and then we would have a max. How would that help us? That would help us because when we have problems with public safety inside the prison where they're reacting adversely to guards or not following the rules, we would be able to move them from the medium up to the max. On the flip side of that, if they're in the maximum prison and they're doing their work, going to their classes, getting their treatment, being a model inmate, we can move them down. No transportation costs. We can also share with food costs, health care costs, one warden, staff, a large staff pool to help with vacations, which is a huge problem in the prisons. I want to share with you some key numbers. Currently, there are 533 employees at the prison, and that is the main reason why we want to put it at Fort Madison to begin with. We want to keep it open at Fort Madison, but the plan is to build a new prison there because we have good employees there, and we do have good employees there. We have great employees there, 533 of them. But the fact of the matter is, by the time this prison is built and 10 years into operation, of those 533, 390 will be at retirement age or older. It's an important number. Before we build the prison, over a third of them will be retired or retirement age. So those are all things that we think that we need to have the discussion with. If you want to meet with us later, I have some numbers that break down the trips. I have some numbers for the age brackets. We once again want to reiterate that we do not want to get rid of the prison in Fort Madison. We may redefine it. There are some other uses. We're having a very tough time with professional people wanting to move to the rural area. Not specifically Fort Madison, but any of our rural prison systems. If you look, we're short pharmacists, we're short psychiatrists, we're short all kinds of professional people because the rule of thumb lately has been that they want to move into more into the urban areas and be close to their associates and the service that's provided. With that, Representative Tjepkes, do you have anything to say?
Representative Lukan and I served on the interim study committee on the prison system, and we were the two that voted no on the plan that was presented by the Durant group. However, that doesn't mean we totally discard the Durant study, because there are a lot of positives in the Durant study insofar as the Mitchellville and many of those improvements that they're suggesting. But the main thing that we're concerned about, if we're going to make a large building project and lay it on the expense of the taxpayers, we think that the decision should be based on efficiency and effectiveness with the Department of Corrections and for the taxpayers of the state of Iowa. We do not think that that location should be determined on a political basis. We think it should be debated on a professional efficiency, effectiveness basis.
There's one fact that may be important to the Iowa taxpayers. If you figure that every prison that I'm aware of in the state of Iowa has a minimum of 100-year span or life period, if we could save 10% by centralizing some of the things, one warden, cut down on management staff, the use of the similar facilities such as food, medicine, education, if we were able to save 4.5 million or 10% over 100 years, That's $450 million more, and that's not taking into account the value of money, inflation, all those type of things that go into the calculation of the cost of building a building. So there are some things that we would like to discuss. We're not set in stone on any location. We're not against Fort Madison. What we are